Hey, welcome back to Two Super Guys Trade Stocks. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Vinny, and today we're talking about the drama that has unfolded in the UK since they lost their fearless leader, the Queen, and then this whole thing just fell apart in a matter of a few weeks. Craziness.
Oh boy, let's get started.
We'll get to it.
Two Super Guys Trade Stocks. So what fell
All
apart?
right. Yeah. So honestly, a lot of this was been going on for a long time. If you actually look historically, when the British pound was at its greatest kind of ratio to their conversion rate to the U.S. dollar, it was like right after World War II. It's been a little bit of a slow
Okay.
downward slide here. But things got a little bit crazy over the last few weeks here. Um, so this right here is a chart of the long-term Treasury bonds in the UK. All right, 20
Okay.
plus years. This is an ETF. If you had invested 10 grand in the beginning of the year, you're sitting at like $7,000 now.
In
Does that sound
bonds?
like a long-term safe investment class that like maybe retirees might be investing in?
Yeah, that's not. That's bad.
Yeah,
That's
no
not
less. Why
good.
not? Yeah, yeah. No one speaks Spanish in England, but it's different kind of thing there. So this is the actual currency conversion here too. It has rebounded a little bit off this low that it hit here, but still well below where it was for years. It's $1.30 or so range, kind of like since Brexit they were kind of trending around that sort of level. It came all the way down to like I think $1.06 was the lowest it reached, almost parity with the U.S. dollar, which is pretty crazy considering for a long time it's been well above that.
Right. Well,
Yep.
are you saying this has to do with the Queen?
No, no, it doesn't have to do with the Queen. Honestly, it really doesn't. But
Oh,
she would
okay.
be very disappointed at what has unfolded since she's no longer there to steady things. This is actually kind of like the first part of the story here. Do you remember this image? Do you remember seeing this at all?
This is a very confusing thing to look at. What is happening? I'm.
So this
This
is an image of
hurts.
what's called Partygate. There were a lot of protests and people very upset about Boris Johnson holding parties during the entirety of COVID. This is a picture from one of those events. Just a bunch of drinking, no one wearing masks, just hanging out. So they got pretty pissed off at him and got his ass tossed out of office.
Did they like blur it at what's happening? Why is that
They
so
blurred the
confusing?
other people that are in attendance.
Oh, jeez.
The prime
And
minister is the only one that matters here.
if you
Boris
zoom
Johnson.
out, it looks like a skull. That's why I was confused.
Okay, I can see that. And well, that so much so that people were literally protesting wearing Boris Johnson masks. So he said they
Oh,
eventually got him removed from office. So
yikes.
that brings us to this intrepid duo here. So this is Liz Truss, who's the new prime minister, replaced Boris Johnson. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he is the finance minister, right?
Okay.
Under Liz Truss now. So the first thing that they do, right, the new kind of folks taking over a sinking ship, maybe a little bit, they decide to go ahead and put in like a new budget proposal, right? Like, how are we
Okay.
going to right this ship?
Right. That's fine.
Okay. One of the things that the UK is really dealing with because of the whole Russia-Ukraine drama too. This is a chart of natural gas prices in Ukraine. I mean, I'm sorry, in the United Kingdom since the whole Ukrainian crisis kicked off there. Pretty
Okay.
aggressive, right?
Yeah, this is
And
high as hell.
yeah, yeah. If I think I was reading at one point, if you translate it to, because for price per barrel of oil makes a little bit more sense to, at least to us. It was about $300 per barrel if you
Oh,
translate. Yeah,
gosh.
not cheap.
Emotional damage.
Yeah, that's not good.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And don't forget that they're fighting really high inflation there, actually even higher than we are here in the U.S. at this point in time. You're talking about 10% inflation, right?
So this is interesting because there's a lot of people that are mad at the Fed for increasing rates as fast as they are. This is where we could be if we don't do that. Just throwing it out there.
So, yeah,
Kind of.
getting a little bit ahead. That's a little bit later on in this discussion, exactly where they're at as far as like, kind of controlling their monetary policy. But it's
Got it.
coming. All right. I'm just kind of trying to set the stage a little bit here. So these are the actual proposals from their budget. Basically, their budget includes broad-based tax cuts. They wanted to eliminate the top marginal tax bracket. They wanted to decrease the property tax, which they call the stamp tax here. They wanted to, minor decrease in terms of the income tax rate for the lower income earners here, from 20% down to 19%. The other interesting thing is that the limit on bankers' bonuses was scrapped. Apparently, there's a British law regulating the maximum bonus that you can receive as a banker in the United Kingdom, and
Okay.
one of the proposals to throw that out. So pretty, involved process here. They're kind of scrapping any increases in corporate taxes. Whole lot of stimulatory kind of monetary policy here is what they proposed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a lot.
but guess how they plan on funding this?
Oh.
Yeah,
How do they
yeah,
plan on funding it?
debt.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yep.
you know, that's gonna be a problem, especially now. There's you that literally couldn't be a worse thing to do. Is just
Yeah.
add debt to right now.
Yep.
Jeez.
So much so that the IMF, International Monetary Fund, you remember who those guys are? They're like the bailer out of countries, the
Actually, I do
PB.
not. I'm gonna play.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Well,
plead ignorance here.
okay. IMF is an international organization that basically is charged with bailing out countries. And ultimately, when that comes to it, that they're the safety net for an entire country.
How do they? I have a lot of questions, but I'm just gonna let that go. On
Yeah,
how on
I
earth
couldn't tell
does that
you.
even
That's
start?
Yeah, it could be a separate video, but they basically came out with a statement immediately after this saying like, "Whoa, guys, hold up, bad idea."
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
I clearly don't know anything about this, and I will tell you this is a horrible idea. But and I know nothing as one stupid guy here for fiscal policy. This is not a good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. It's quite a tenuous time to be doing something like this, um, and in particular, the way they're going about it, they were talking about how it's not targeted and will increase kind of disparity amongst wealth, right? Because you think that your average British person really cares about the limit of £1 million per year on bankers' bonuses? No, no, they don't care at all.
That also seems like a weird thing to throw in there. It seems inappropriate. It seems like one of those things that was snuck in to get some other things in there. Like how we do that, like bullshit
Yeah.
all the time. Because that doesn't seem like it helps at all.
The rumor scuttlebutt, this is coming from an American trying to understand British politics, is that the Tory political party, which is what Liz Truss and Boris Johnson are part of, are akin to our Republicans a little bit. And that they're on their way out in terms of unlikelihood of having significant political power for the next 10 years or so. And this is a last minute cash grab, is what one of the articles I was reading talked about.
Well, you just said the word scuttlebutt, so now I'll believe anything you say. That sounds
Yeah,
good.
it's a great little term. This is also set off like kind of a little bit of a, I don't want to say a spiral or anything like that quite to that degree, but there's a lot of dominoes that have fallen subsequently, and we're going to talk a little bit still more about that. So Moody's immediately came out and said that they kind of were revising their, not their credits rating yet, but their view is that it was going to be a negative kind of leaning, meaning that they are evaluating for potential, kind of downgrading in terms of the credit ratings for the UK government.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
this is such a bad idea. I just how whew, how do you stop this from happening? How do because
Yeah.
the worst thing you can do is add debt when you have to increase rate. You're gonna owe more money on the debt, and you have inflation. This is a shitty idea. And I don't
Well,
know anything about this.
it gets even worse, right? Because everyone sees the kind of writing on the wall and goes, "Damn, like there's going to be a lot of people trying to the UK government's going to be trying to sell a lot of bonds. There's not going to be as much demand. It's going to put a lot of like downward pressure that they're going to have to really kind of be getting these things at rock bottom prices. People are going to be trying to get out of the British pound and transfer for American dollars. That's why you saw that kind of down rate in currency transfer there. Now, all of a sudden, the pension funds in the UK, which had taken these LDI, which is like a levered kind of instrument, it's equivalent to like the CDO from the mortgage crisis, if you remember that. Think of it that way. Yeah, yeah. So the entire British economy is about $2.6 trillion in GDP.
Okay.
These LDIs from one source I was reading was about 1.5, 1.6 trillion.
So what is okay? Explain it to me like I'm five, just for all the people that
So
don't understand.
it's basically a levered bet. Think of it as a options contract on these long term treasury bonds.
This is such a bad idea.
Yeah, so it can really juice up the returns so you can meet your pension liabilities. But
Or
if things don't go
ruin
well,
everything.
yes, exactly. So because
This
of that,
is this is kind of like the guy in Venezuela, the leader who just like bought a shit ton of Bitcoin and is just like putting all his money in crypto, hoping it works out.
that was El Salvador, but
Oh,
close.
El
Yes, I
Salvador.
completely agree.
There we go. I'm really good at global politics.
I know, right? They're close. They both speak the same language, at least. Um, so much so that these levered instruments were getting margin calls on British pension funds. Right? So the Bank of England had to step in and start buying long dated treasury bonds during a time in which they were trying to do quantitative tightening. They were
Oh
being
my
forced to do
god.
quantitative easing to just assuage these fears, hopefully. And they set a kind of a sunset date of this for October 14th. They're trying to just do it for a couple weeks. Do you think that's going to work out?
No, but if you wanted to buy land in the UK, wouldn't now be the time? Because I feel like, well, maybe in a year actually.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
You
everything's
gotta,
going to get real cheap.
yeah, you got to let these things unfold. So this is the kind of central bank rates in the UK. They've been raising the rates just right along with us here in the Federal Reserve in the United States of America. Pretty aggressively, pretty steeply, right?
Okay.
No different as far as that goes. They're trying to fight inflation, right? So you fight inflation by increasing rates, and they have to offload their balance sheet, so they have to sell assets, but they're being forced to buy assets. So this is actually the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. Like, yes, seen the same pattern. I'm sorry, the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England,
Right.
very similar to our Federal Reserve in terms of that trajectory. Where early 2020 we just saw a massive kind of boom up, and then they continued buying assets throughout the majority of the pandemic. They've just now started to try to offload assets a little bit, but they're being forced to buy more just to stabilize their freaking pension funds, which is a crappy position to be in. Put it that way.
Dude, this is a nightmare. This is
Yeah.
really bad. Like, how does this not affect everyone around it? Because, I mean, this could easily spiral out of their territory. This could be a problem.
It could be. It could be. The LDI is something I have to do a little bit more reading about. At my first blush at it, I was like, "Oh God, did we do it again in like only a matter of like 14 years?" Like, we already forgot the lessons of the mortgage-backed securities and the CDOs from that entire fiasco. Like, we created
Yeah,
another instrument that just as dangerous.
this is this is so bad. This is well, yeah, if you're looking to buy a house or if you're looking to buy land, maybe a year and a half, UK might be pretty cheap. I've never been, but
We could create an episode: Two Stupid Guys Buy Lordships.
oh, I could be a lord? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm in. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Oh
Guys, well, let
man.
us know. Should we buy a lordship?
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good one.